what you'll find is Panasonic cameras are going to have different or more advanced video specs than most any other brand out there, especially as you get to the older cameras from 2016, 2017, 2018. All those cameras from Panasonic are going to far exceed the video specs compared to the other cameras that came out in the same year. All right. Now, and that's related to the specs themselves as opposed to the autofocus. This is where it's going to be a challenge because the D7500 probably has really decent autofocus for photography, and maybe for video. Is back then video DSLRs weren't necessarily the best at video autofocus unless you were talking about Canon. Nikon may have, they just weren't known for their video autofocus. All right. Megapixels, it's at 20.3, right? So it's well within the 16. Going down. Let's see here. Micro Four Thirds, we talked about that. You might be looking at these maximum shutter speeds. All right. The maximum shutter speed is important for photography. All right. This has to do with how fast can it take a picture. This is 1/16,000th of a second is as fast as that shutter can go. And that is important if you're outside on a bright sunny day and you want to capture the image and you don't want it to look washed out, but you want to keep your aperture really low. All right. Now I've got a background as a photographer just as much as I got one as a videographer. So I'm very familiar with photography specs as well. I'm focused a bit more on the video side, but most of these cameras that we're looking at least in this list, are going to be beneficial for both video and photo. The majority of them, some may be specialized just for video, but I think everyone that we've got in this list is going to be for both. All right. And so 1/16,000th of a second is a really fast shutter. Most of them are going to go to 1/8,000th of a second. This one doubles that. All right. That means it can shoot a picture really fast. Even when it's really bright outside, it'll still be able to get it to where it's not super bright because it doesn't let in as much light, but it still allows you to keep your aperture really low. So you can have a shallow depth of field. All right. And then what else do we need to pay attention to here? This one has a maximum video frame rate of 180 frames per second, which is crazy. As a beginner, you really won't need that. Looking in this budget though, if you were looking for a camera that can shoot super slow motion, right? That's what that 180 represents, that you can slow this down quite a bit, all right, and shoot super slow motion. So back in the day when 2017, 2019, 2020 and all that stuff, a lot of YouTubers were using this camera because of that slow motion effect. They were shooting things at high frames per second to slow it down later in post.